the Arctic. A brief summer that offers no mercy. Here on the vast frost-bitten tundra, a hidden hollow on the barren ground becomes the coordinates of death. For the Pacific Golden Plover, an open nest is an open invitation to predators. But inside this vulnerable shelter, against all odds, a miracle of survival is whispering to life. Time is the ultimate enemy. As the first star-shaped cracks fracture the speckled shells, an urgent countdown begins. The watchful eyes of the parents scan the ominous skies. Predators are hunting, drawn by the scent of new life. Time to rest. Inside the shell, a tiny egg-tooth hammers desperately for freedom. Wet, shivering, and fragile, the first chick breaks into the freezing polar air. Instantly, the father flies away to discard the conspicuous eggshells, erasing any trace of birth from the waiting claws of the Arctic fox. Soon all four siblings within hours. Their damp feathers dry into a flawless armor of gold and black camouflage, dissolving them perfectly into the lichen-covered stones. The mother refuses to sit. With firm, urgent nudges, her commanding voice issues a ruthless decree: stand up or die. Their spindly legs wobble, and the youngest falls into the cold moss. Yet driven by pure evolutionary instinct, it struggles back to its feet. As the family takes its first perilous steps away from the only home they've ever known, the youngest is snagged by a stubborn blade of grass. Left behind in the closing shadows, panic sets in. With a desperate burst of adrenaline, it breaks free, sprinting to catch the family's shadow. Together, they vanish into the immense wilderness. The greatest marathon on Earth has officially begun. When the sun rises high, the tundra sheds its misty cradle. It transforms into a massive, unforgiving school of survival. As the morning light sharpens, the chicks venture out like tiny mobile cotton balls. Their long, spindly legs are growing steadier with every stride, but innocence is a dangerous trait in a world of sharp eyes. Lesson number 1. To stay alive, you must learn to dissolve. You must become invisible. But curiosity soon overrides caution. For the youngest chick, the tundra is a feast waiting to be claimed. Parents do not hand out meals here. To fill your belly, your eyes must be sharp and your feet must be fast. Driven by a newfound addiction to the hunt, the young nomad follows the erratic hops of insects, step by stray step. One more chase, one more beetle, and the fragile cord of connection breaks. The safety of the family slips behind a ridge of cold stone. The tundra is not just a banquet, it is a labyrinth of invisible traps. Standing utterly alone in an alien world of gray boulders, the youngest chick opens its beak to cry, its frantic voice swallowed by the bleak polar wind. Panic turns into a blind run. Just beneath a low shrub, a deadly crevasse of permafrost meltwater appears without warning. There are no breaks on slippery mud. As the earth gives way beneath its tiny claws, the chick is suspended over an icy abyss. Yet a miracle of survival sparks. Clawing at a solid root, it flings its body back to safety. From the high ridge, parental voices ring out, a lifeline thrown into the silent valley. Leaving the bugs behind, the chick sprints home. The second lesson is permanently etched into its instinct. On the tundra, to be isolated is to be dead. When the Arctic darkness descends, the rules of engagement on the tundra instantly shift. The bright afternoon light is choked as heavy. Charcoal clouds from the polar sea swallow the sun. The joyful rhythm of the meadow vanishes, replaced by a low, threatening drone of freezing wind. A warning from her triggers immediate panic. Standing on a boulder, the father plover flinches, his neck feathers standing erect. His head snaps in hyper-vigilant jerks as his eyes narrow in fear. From a bird's-eye view, the vast mosaic of moss looks flat, but a shadow is slinking swiftly through the rock crevices. For now, the bloodthirsty predators are waking up. A hungry Arctic fox emerges, its snout rearing into the wind. Tracking the exact scent of the chicks, freeze. Instantly, all four chicks pancake into the earth, transforming into unchosen, motionless gravel stones. Paws step softly over the moss. The fox is tracing their footprints, its heavy breathing echoing as a sub-bass heartbeat fills the psychological space. The narrow, amber eyes of the hunter scan the turf, just inches away from the wide, paralyzed stare of the youngest chick. The absolute test of endurance has found the most vulnerable target. The fox stops. Its wet, foul snout descends, hovering a mere 50 centimeters above the youngest plover. Air chokes in the microphone. Only the predator's aggressive snorts remain. Inside the chick's contracting pupil, the monstrous silhouette of the fox is magnified. Instinct begs it to run, but survival commands it to stay dead. The fox tilts its head, growling in suspicion, sensing a presence it cannot see. Macro claws dig deep into the moss, locking down a chemical panic response. Time stretches into an agonizing, silent vacuum. Then a breaking point. A distant crack of shifting stones shatters the standoff. From a high ridge, the protector reveals himself. Bathed in blood-red sunset light, the father flaps his wings and screams a frantic decoy cry. The target shifts. The fox turns, locking onto the exposed adult, and launches into a bullet sprint. Temporary salvation arrives in the deep shadows. The silent game of nerves is over. Now a high-stakes sacrifice begins. The cold early drizzle begins to fall, mixing with blinds of sand driven by the gale. The tundra turns into a blurry, chaotic theater of war. Sensing an easy strike, the Arctic fox veers sharply, ripping through the moss to pursue the rising father bird. The chase enters a rhythmic frenzy. In a calculated plunge, the father drops from the sky, but instead of escaping, he strikes the gravel clumsily, deliberately collapsing his left wing. The broken wing display has begun. Dragging his feathers across the sharp stones, he stumbles sideways, a perfect imitation of a severely crippled animal. Death stops in its tracks. The fox narrows its eyes, calculating. Right before it sits the easiest meal it has ever encountered. The father bird watches his enemy closely through hypervigilant eyes, his beak emitting a pathetic, theatrical distress cry while his wings thump weakly against the dirt. He is baiting the devil. The fox launches an explosive assault, and in slow motion the pursuit ignites. The father runs erratically, drawing the predator in the exact opposite direction of his hidden chicks. He maintains a razor-thin safety margin, letting the snapping jaws close within mere meters. Then the critical impact. The fox leaps into thin air, its curved claws brushing the very tips of the bird's tail feathers. But in a split-second reflex, the broken wing snaps wide open with functional power, and the father rockets vertically out of reach. Mud cants the furious face of the defeated predator. Slamming into the earth, the fox spins in rage, refusing to give up. The game resets. The father descends again just 5 meters ahead, resuming his agonizing wails. His small dark eyes radiate an unyielding. From the moss shelter, the chicks watch his silhouette disappear into the dangerous marshlands. The fox is led through slick boulders and deep peat bogs, sinking heavily into the mire. A near miss occurs when the father slips on wet algae, but he forces a vertical recovery against the headwind. Having established a safe distance, he outmaneuvers the exhausted hunter, vanishing into the clouds. Perched high on an isolated peak, the father stands victorious. He has no weapons, no physical dominance, but love has transformed a prey into a master defier of death. The hero returns, his feathers worn from the brush with death, but as the wind shifts, a darker shadow gathers over the tundra. In the Arctic, summer is a fragile illusion. Paradise can turn into a frozen hell in mere minutes. Without warning, a violent wave of hailstones hits the plains, hammering the green lichen like ancient shards of ice. For the young plover chicks, the heavy storm is a relentless enemy. A jagged hailstone strikes a running chick, forcing its small body to lurch forward. Its golden down becomes saturated with ice-cold water, clumping into a wet shroud. Under a small rock overhang, the mother creates a feathered umbrella, pressing 3 shivering chicks to her core. But as her eyes scan the white sheets of ice, maternal panic strikes. The youngest is not there. The voice of blood is suddenly helpless against the fury of nature. Separated by the blizzard, a tiny speck of life moves blindly through a massive whiteout. Exhausted, the youngest chick crawls under a freezing stone crevasse. Above its head, the ice pellets batter the roof. A hidden enemy settles in, hypothermia. Frost crystals freeze onto its eyelids. Its eyes grow heavy as its black bill twitches in an involuntary shiver. It gathers its fading energy for one last frail distress call before its head collapses onto the frozen moss. When the camouflage down is soaked with ice, it is no longer an armor. It becomes a shroud, freezing life away. Yet, the search does not stop. Driven by pure adrenaline, the father digs through the sleet, battling visibility. Inside the cave, the mother faces an agonizing dilemma: save the three present or risk them all for the lost. Under the ice, the chick slips into a coma, but through the roar of the gale, a silent radar locks on. The father snaps his head toward the west. Launching into an arrow sprint, he braves the hammering stones, sliding into the narrow crevasse. Finding his frozen chick, he sweeps the snow away and folds his deep, warm belly down over its limp body. This battle has no weapons, no visible enemies. There is only stubborn endurance against the cold cruelty of the universe. And in the darkest freezing shadow, a tiny claw flexes, belling into the father's skin. A double heartbeat merges. The spark of life refuses to go out. Arctic storms arrive in a fury, and they vanish as quickly as a blink of nature's eye. The heavy gloom fractures. A brilliant beam of golden light tears through the gray Sung Mo, illuminating a raw tundra scarred by ice. Millions of melted hailstones dissolve into perfect spheres, glistening on the green stalks like a field of diamonds under the morning sun. Under the rock ledge, a rebirth begins. Shaking off the remaining frost, the father stands tall, and from underneath his warm chest, the youngest chick peeps out, its dark eyes filled with renewed vital energy. Shaking off the ice that nearly claimed its life, the tiny nomad is reborn with a fierce new strength. It throws its head back, opening its small beak wide to sound a ringing declaration of life across the valley. From the distant ridge, the mother and siblings emerge, beating their wings in a joyous, echoing response. But one final obstacle remains. A massive meltwater pool, wide and blinding with sun glare, separates the traveler from home. There is no hesitation this time. The chick digs its claws into the stone, its eyes locked on the opposite bank. Driven by a pure will to unite, it launches forward, its tiny feet tapping a precise, high-speed line across the slippery rocks. From the final ledge, it leaps into the sky, weightless and golden in the air, before executing a flawless touchdown. For those who refuse to surrender to the elements, the reunion is a priceless reward. Sheltered and preened under the precise care of its parents, the youngest chick stands proud, its golden feathers fluffing up with the defiant confidence of a true survivor. The first week of life closes with a masterclass in resilience. They have proven they belong to this magnificent wilderness. As the brief summer days in the Arctic draw to a close, a fiery sunset paints the entire tundra in blazing crimson. It is a breathtaking farewell, signaling the end of one chapter and the birth of a grand destiny. On the body of the youngest chick, a quiet miracle is unfolding. The soft, gold and black down is falling away, replaced by the sharp, stiff shafts of its very first flight feathers. Its wings, yet untested by flight, begin to answer a deep magnetic pull from the southern oceans. Every desperate sprint away from predators and storms was not a punishment of nature. In slow motion, we see the true purpose of the struggle. Those fragile legs have hardened into cords of pure steel, driving off the gravel with immense force. The daily race for survival was a ruthless training ground, forging the precise skeletal strength needed for a monumental marathon. In a few weeks, these small souls must leave the safety of the earth entirely, done into a terrifying reality. 4,000 kilometers of continuous flight over an empty oceanic void, without food, water, or rest. Through the lens of an intense profile, the youngest chick stands on the cliff's edge, its dark eyes reflecting the fading crimson sun. In the world of the Pacific Golden Plover, there is no such thing as waiting to grow up before you fight. They are born to run, and they run to forge the wings that will conquer the oceans. Life, much like the unforgiving Arctic tundra, never grants you time to prepare. The only way to survive is to face it and step forward. As the entire flock rises into the twilight, forming a majestic V formation against the emerging stars, they dissolve into the endless blue void. They fade into microscopic dots over the southern horizon, leaving behind a silent land. They are the marathon runners of the sky who never give up.